Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Venture Center's Lunch and Learn program. This Friday, another week has gone by living in the world of the coronavirus, but we're excited for this program. And I think one of the fun things that we really do through the course of the visitation of the accelerator, albeit virtual this year, the theme for today's Lunch and Learn is making of an entrepreneur. And for some of you who have joined us in the past, we've historically done this at the Clinton School. Obviously, we're not able to assemble to do that today, so we're doing that virtually. And I have 5 of the founders from the companies who are visiting with us virtually in the current ICBA Accelerator. But before we kick off and sort of hear from them a little bit, I want to welcome everybody today. And I want to also just make sure that we take a moment to thank the sponsors who make these programs at the Venture Center possible, along with the great team at the Venture Center that puts this stuff together and makes me look good, that's for sure. Ashley, Mimi, Annalise, Becky, and the entire team. I want to thank the ICBA, who has been just an extraordinary partner in this accelerator. Just the way they put their shoulder behind our programming and support us is extraordinary. Simmons Bank, Wright Lindsay Jennings, of course, Frost Accounting, and of course, last but not least, the Little Rock Regional Chamber. We do have some upcoming programs coming up. We have Ready for Life, a Lunch and Learn with the Arkansas State Chamber, the Department of Education, UAPTC, and Tyson. That'll be at noon on the 17th. Lift the Rock comes up on the 19th with the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, Rocktown River Outfitters. That'll also be at noon. And then on the 24th, we have a business travel guidance workshop with Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings, Apartment Hunters, and Poe Travel, which is clearly a topic as we get back to some level of normalcy. Travel will start to be a part of our lives again. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to ask each of the entrepreneurs who are with us today, I'll sort of pick on you guys. Let's have you start off with a little bit of introducing yourselves, where you're from, maybe a minute on your background, and a little bit about your business. Miraj, let's go ahead and start with you if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Miraj Patel. I'm the founder and CEO of Harness. We're based out of Tampa, Florida. And for the past 4 years, we've been building the subscription philanthropy platform to help local nonprofits raise more money in a sustainable, recurring manner. So we have a footprint of several hundred nonprofits across America, and are actually jumping into the community banking space as well through this partnership with the Venture Center and the ICBA. So it's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to sharing more info as this goes along.
Good deal. Thanks very much. Dave Shipley, why don't you take it next?
Hi, my name is David Shipley, and I'm from Frosty, New Brunswick, Canada, up here on the East Coast. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Beauceron Security, and we help address the human aspects of cybersecurity and cyber risk, helping people know and care more about security.
Fantastic, thanks. Josearieal.
I'm Josearieal Gomez. I am originally from Mexico, but we're based in Berkeley, California. I'm a CEO and co-founder of Shastic, and we are focused on helping to move information and documents within the banking organization automatically, and also help to cut down all of the manual repetitive processing work that oftentimes gets in the way of bankers working more closer to customers. Very nice to be here.
Thanks a bunch. Louden, how about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Louden Richason, calling in from North Carolina, and I lead the partnerships team at Zogo Finance. We're a mobile financial literacy app that helps financial institutions connect with Gen Z, launched in late 2019, and have partnered with a lot of financial institutions to date.
Good deal. Thank you. Zach, you gonna pick up the rear there?
Yeah, absolutely. Zack Duke, CEO and founder of Finosec, based in just north of Atlanta, up in Alpharetta, Georgia. And when we started the company 3 years ago, we saw a gap. The fact of the matter is information security, cybersecurity governance, think of that as validation in banking. It's complicated, labor intensive, and leaves community bankers feeling overwhelmed. And that's where our platform fits in to address those problems. Thanks for having us.
Good deal. You know, our focus at the Venture Center is we're an entrepreneurial service organization, and we have a pretty passionate team, and we have a chance to work with extraordinary people like yourselves. And, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And so we're hopeful today that you guys will share some of your insights about the challenges, the highs, the lows, and really, I want to start off with really the why. And Zack, I'm going to start with you since we finished with you on the intros, a little bit about, why did you decide to pursue this? What got you out of bed one day or woke you up in the middle of the night and said, I'm going to create Finosec. I'm going to be an entrepreneur or take my entrepreneurial journey to the next level. Tell us a little bit about the why. What got you started?
Yeah, there's a lot behind that. So I think the first thing I'll say is I saw a gap and I saw an opportunity. I think you have to have that as an entrepreneur. You got to understand, is there a challenge and something we can address and fix? My entire career, I'd wanted to be the CEO and a founder of a startup. So that was just something on my bucket list. I think more importantly, it was hard for me to go take this step in the leap of faith. I was in a really well-paying job. And really what I would say, I was in a place where I would define as successful. But candidly, I wanted more. And the best analogy I have, or the best way to say that is, had this desire to move from success to significance. If you just let that marinate for a second, that's a big, bold statement. And there's a lot of things philosophically we've been able to put into the organization to do that. So I mentioned earlier, we're simplifying cybersecurity governance. That's what we do. If I'm thinking the why, I would bubble up even farther than that. And our purpose statement as a team ends with love, serve, give. And this concept of, if we love our employees unlike any other, they'll serve our customers in very unique ways and we'll be able to give back. So when you really get talking about the passion of what gets me fired up, it's helping customers, but it's making a bigger impact.
That's awesome. I love from success to significance. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Miraj, I'm wondering, is Gary Patel any relation to you?
No, sir. The Patel tribe is strong and global. So very much like the common American names, we are all tribesmen, but not necessarily blood related.
I had to ask in case there was a relative who we wanted to recognize and thank them for participating. Gary, you're welcome to be here. We love you. Anyway, hey, Raj, talk about success to significance and the passion of your mission with Harness. What got you going down the path of prize link giving of all things?
Yeah, I think as Zack mentioned, it all starts with the problem, right? And is there a significant enough problem to really lean in on and dedicate, more than just your waking hours to, but your sleeping hours and your dreaming hours and every moment, whether you're on vacation or in the office. And what we realized was charity in America is broken. Altruism is part of human DNA, and there needs to be better ways and newer ways to unlock that altruism. And so that's why we decided to start Harness and to create subscription philanthropy, to create donor experiences for these different organizations that we work with. And, the significance piece is amazing because that's what keeps us going, right? And so one of the big things is us as for-profit founders looking to build growing companies, we realize that if you're spending all of your time refilling the bucket revenue-wise every single year, growth is not only improbable, it is literally impossible. But that's what our nonprofits in America are faced with, right? They have to throw events every single year to keep their operating budget going. They have to shake you down as a donor every single year to get your $10, $50, $100 gift. And there's really no methodical approach to growth. And so that's where Harness comes in, and that's where our value add is. And just seeing the charities and the nonprofits we work with create this transition, and then the banking partners leaning in, the community banks, knowing that their community-based charities need this hand in donor acquisition and recurring revenue support. It's just been incredible to see how this network is beginning to form. And when you talk about the days where you're in the corner by yourself trying to figure out what did we get into, seeing the support from all of these different players, including you guys at the Venture Center, right? That's what keeps us going. And the significance piece is key in that, because it's what keeps you coming to the plate every single day.
Good deal. Yep, that's fantastic. Louden, you guys are trying to make the world better as well. Tell us about what you're doing at Zogo.
Happy to. So at Zogo, we're a group of Gen Zers that are really trying to change the way that financial literacy is taught. And we came across a problem really in college when we started making some of our own financial decisions, and none of us had any idea what we were doing. We're doing well in our classes and our peers were doing well too, but when it came to getting insurance or budgeting or any of those important financial decisions, we were at a loss. And so that really was the problem we set out to solve. And the reason we work with financial institutions is because they really are trying to connect with that younger generation. They do presentations in high schools, and it's just not really effective. So we're trying to redefine that relationship and give community banks, credit unions, other financial institutions a way to connect with the younger generation and give them really the rules to the game. So when they have to make those financial decisions on their own, they're prepared to do so.
Do you feel like you're getting the answer to your why? Do you feel like the where you started and where you are now, that you're accomplishing what you set out to resolve as far as that problem was concerned?
I think so. We hear a lot from our users. We just did a competition on Twitter yesterday asking our users how they benefited from the app. And we've heard countless stories about how people have bought their first house, they got their first car, they got insurance from using our app. And we just hope that continues to grow and we continue to reach more people as the company grows.
Awesome. That's great. It's great because those goalposts have a tendency to move in the entrepreneurial world a little bit. So it's always great to see that you're staying the course. David, how about you? And I'm going to share something with everybody if they don't know about David, which is, and I think it's really cool. David used to drive a tank in the Canadian Army. So I always wanted to drive a tank. So I'm coming to visit so we can go drive tanks together.
Wow.
Sounds like a deal, Wayne. Although there are places in the US and in France where we can rent tanks and go for a drive. So
I'm ready. I'm ready.
It's interesting. I never, this career that I have today didn't exist when I was a kid. You know, when I was growing up, I thought newspapers were going to be the be all to end all. And I wanted to be a newspaper reporter and be like my heroes, Clark Kent and Peter Parker, and tell stories with impact and hold people accountable to power, to justice. And, you know, it's interesting how all the courses in my life have kind of come together, the military, the journalism, the marketing. And I got into cybersecurity accidentally. And so my story is I was working at this university, got out of journalism because at a good time, newspapers weren't heading in a happy place, got in a sweet job in marketing, and Mother's Day 2012 happens, and I worked really closely in the marketing team with the IT team. And I got an email from a hacktivist group called Team Digital that said, "We hacked your university. We've got your data. Your IT admins suck. Hugs and kisses." I kid you not. They literally said hugs and kisses. And so I looked at this. I checked the website where they were posting the data. I was like, "Yeah, that looks like a SQL database. That just looks like it's probably real." And called my friends in the IT department and raised the red flag and rolled my sleeves up and got involved in the incident response. And we helped contain it. We helped communicate clearly and effectively, like how we were going to make it better and improve as a university. After that, the CIO asked me to be the IT team lead in cybersecurity. So moved over there, was learning this, and I discovered through my experience that people matter the most. The technology is always there in cyber, but people, process, and culture is there. Also, quick fun note, the leader of the group that attacked us was actually a US Navy sailor hacking us from a US Navy aircraft carrier at the time. The first time I've ever seen NCIS outside of the TV show. So I thought that was always cool. When I was at the university, I got this opportunity to see the problem. And as others have said, I didn't feel like it was getting addressed. How do we engage people more in cybersecurity? How do we put them in control of technology, which is actually what the word cyber was meant to mean. People in control of technology. So that's what drives us every day through the roller coaster, the ups and the downs. And, you know, being a security company is, as Zack knows, is a particular bundle of fun as an entrepreneur.
Of, you know, starting off as in the newspaper business and wanting to be a reporter and serving in the Army and so forth, of the things that you did prior to this, you made the comment that what you do today is the amalgam of your experience has all come to bear for Beauceron and for the company. Is there one particular part of your experience that's been most helpful to you in guiding in creating this company?
I think Zack hit this. You serving others and you will succeed. And that whole idea of service before itself is a leadership principle, but it's a principle that, you know, actually JFK in the States, there was always this quote, I'm sure I'm going to mangle it, but ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. If we did that a bit more in our communities and in our businesses, in other ways, what a different world we'd have than the toxic social media world that we see nowadays. So put others first. And really, that's the counter to the cyber criminals. When you look at the cyber criminals that are out there, these are smart, talented individuals. And many of them, they want to meet the needs of their own financial needs of their own communities, et cetera, but they're putting themselves first at the expense of the community. So my goal is to serve and to learn. Like the biggest thing I could say from my career path as an entrepreneur, there is no one way to get to the seats that, Miraj, Josearieal, Louden, or Zack and I sit in today. There are thousands of paths to entrepreneurship. Just keep yourself open to it. And lastly, we're all scared. Like there are different degrees of fear. It happens at different times. It's ride the rails of the roller coaster. There's nobody here, and maybe there is somebody better than me, but it's the ability to say there's something more important than fear. I want to put myself and see how far I can go. Sorry if that was long-winded.
No, great answer. And you did well on JFK too. You didn't mangle that at all. That's pretty good for a Canadian. We'll give you some chops there for sure. Good deal. Thank you, David. Great stuff. Josearieal, how about you? Talk about what got you up and got you starting Shastic one day.
I was gonna say, I think maybe Elon Musk is not scared. I don't know, but just one guy. Yeah, my story is, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And so I guess I kind of had a little bit of the DNA that it was a given. We are very curious people. And like David was saying, we love to learn. So I think that kind of got me a little bit in the path. I decided to leave my country and come here because I always liked technology. I've been a bit of a techie, and I really wanted to do something impactful with technology. Wasn't very sure what at the time, but that was about 10 years ago. And I met one of my co-founders, who's very involved. He has a very successful company in banking, and so started learning about that. And I mean, for me, one of the things I realized was that for most people, their most important, like money can be a force for good, right? Like the most important things they're going to do in their lives, like investments like a house or cars or things like that, they require loans, and they require you to understand the system enough so that you don't get taken advantage of. And so, the more I learned about that, it really became, I kind of felt like, okay, this is something that it sounds really complicated. It's hard, but I'm sure I can figure it out. I had to learn how to code. I had to learn everything about the financial services from scratch. Made a lot of mistakes, and sorry, bad memories. But for me, that I feel like I can punch a dent in this universe, in this industry. Like if I can make just at least some improvement of the way things work, and they're pretty inefficient right now, that has real impact, and that that touches people's lives, maybe thousands, maybe millions of people. I don't know. We're trying to grow that right now, but that's more or less my story.
Awesome. There's a consistent theme this morning, or this afternoon rather, so far with each of you. Obviously, you're very passionate, courageous, trying to make change and be impactful and give back, which I think is fantastic. I mean, that's the way we live every day at the Venture Center, is trying to make, the best work you can do is making a difference in other people's lives. And we hopefully have been able to do that for you all and many of the people who have touched the Venture Center, as well as the team that's there. But, at the end of the day, we got to pay the bills too, right? So it's not, obviously it's about doing the good work. And if you do the good work, usually good things happen. But raising capital as an entrepreneur, funding a business, paying your team, being able to build a business is about the mechanics of building a business and the economics of that too. Zack, let me finish with you with, let's go back to you, Josearieal, a little bit here is, how do you get from, this is a great idea to, do I have a viable business here? How do I know I have a business? And at what point do you say, I'm going to give up my day job, right? Zack talked about a little bit about going from being in a successful role to say, I'm going to mortgage my house. I'm going to put my family at risk. I'm going to sell the car and drive a bike, so I have a couple of extra bucks. I'm going to use my credit cards to make payroll, whatever it takes. We as entrepreneurs in the Venture Center have all had these experiences and walked in your moccasins, if you will. But how do you go from the passion associated with that to saying, hey, I'm trying to create a business here, and know that you have that?
I mean, I don't know if I have the answer to that, but it's just like, you just have to do it. You just have to get started, right? and there's definitely a lot of fear at the beginning. I think the way that you reach, like you said, something like a market fit or something like that is, I mean, you have to be good at being able to talk to people and understand kind of what the real challenges are, as opposed to what's on the surface, because a lot of times you can waste a lot of time in that. And I also feel like there definitely has to be a wrong that you want to right, or something that is going to carry you through the tough times, because it's going to be insane at some points. I'm sure you guys know, right? Zach, David, everybody. Yeah. So you have to be very passionate about whatever you're doing before. I would say definitely don't treat it lightly. It's very romanticized a lot of times, and I think that's kind of a mistake sometimes, because it's tough. It's way easier to just get a very successful job like what Zach had, and it's totally fine. You can have a great life. So you really have to have something else that is pushing you through.
That's great.
And then be able to just talk to people, understand what really matters and what's the real problem. And then if you're intelligent, if you're curious, and if you like to learn, you will figure things out. It's not like rocket science a lot of times, just persistence.
Did you think about making money or making change first?
Yeah, no, I still don't think about making money. Just so you know, I'm one of the least paid people in my company. So like, that's for real. Most of my team, because I sacrifice my income so that I can hire more people so we can go a little faster. So yeah, it's never been about money. Otherwise, I will probably be a lot more successful working for Apple or one of those companies. I'm not kidding. Like, for me, it's about making impact. I think the value of something is not what people are willing to pay for it, but how much impact it makes.
Gotcha. Excellent. Thanks. Miraj, how about you? When did you find you guys have been pretty successful. You've got some traction. You've raised some capital. You're growing at a very strong pace. What about paying the bills?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here, and I don't know the stage of everyone on the call on the other end of this, but from day one, you have this imposter syndrome of it really doesn't matter what milestone you hit, your seed, your A, your B, your C, your D, all the way up until, IPO or exit in other fashion. You always feel like, is this thing real, or is it all gonna, start crumbling down, So I think that's something that I've had to come to grips with as a leader. I think Josearieal, you mentioned it, same thing. Myself and my co-founder, least paid folks in the business, but it's really not about us. This is a people-centered, culture that we've created, and it goes much more than just like talent on a resume. It's the grind and the personality and the euphoria and the just will to see this problem through that my team brings to the table every single day. So when that's what's leading you and that's what's the sacrifice you're making, in your mind, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It's like, hey, we have this baby and look at this awesome team that wakes up every day and comes in here and wants to protect this thing that we have going and see it grow and see it mature. And so as far as paying the bills, there are days and times it sounded like something that would never happen, but the situation of, oh my goodness, a few years ago, we couldn't pay the team the next day, those types of things happen. And that's when you really have to draw on your why. And that's when you have to be super honest with yourself of, hey, is this something that, is ultimately going to work out? But we've had those moments, and David mentioned it, whether you call it being afraid or, the anxiety moments, those are there. But I think it's just about coming to terms with the fact that this is what we signed up for. And everyone listening to this is something that you've signed up for, you will sign up for. And it's never going to get easier. Every founder that I've spoken to at different stages says the same thing. It's you hit one milestone and you immediately set your sights to the next one. And that next one comes with so many unique challenges. But when you look back, you're like, holy crap, when we started this thing, we didn't even believe we could, get here. Who would have thought, we could survive the 99.9% that don't even make it here. So when it comes to sorry, I kind of floated away from your question, Wayne. The paying the bills, we're the last people to get paid, but it's a great situation because you want these folks who are passionate and determined and in the trenches with you every single day to show them that you're taking care of them, and it's their hard work, nobody else's, that's responsible for all of the success and all of the failures that we experience. And so that at the end of the day is what makes it slightly easier for me to wrap my head around.
Good deal. Appreciate that. Loudon, how about you? You know, again, a very altruistic approach to solving a problem that's really significant. How'd you figure out there was a business there? Like they say, there was a pony in there, right?
Right. So we started with the problem of financial literacy, but like you said, that's not a business. And we had to figure out how to monetize it, because at the end of the day, we have a financial literacy app and you have to make money from it if you want to build a company. And so it took us a while to find the right market fit with financial institutions, but we eventually landed on financial institutions because they were already putting an effort to reach this younger generation, but just not really effectively reaching them. So I think it took us a while to get to the point where we realized this is who's trying to reach the younger generation, and this is the avenue that we can take to deliver financial literacy. But we started with that problem, and then we looked for the institutions that we could work with to help deliver the change we wanted to make.
And then figured out how to pull the economics out of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, how about you?
Yeah, so there's a lot in behind that. I think I think the first piece from a monetization standpoint, we're pretty unique in that we started our discovery process with actually starting a consulting business to get revenue in the door, and then built a platform based on those processes. I think a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you have to be focused in on how am I going to get revenue? What is that process? That's part of why you'll see the bell sitting here beside me, because we celebrate every single time we get a deal in. And I think that's the first step, is you have to be able to go get money in the door. Otherwise, you're not a startup. You are no longer, and you're looking for a job. I think the secondary piece that I had to go through and figure out is, we talked in the beginning about success, significance, giving back. How do you do that as a startup? I mean, good gosh. I mean, everybody said this. I didn't take a salary for 2 years. And as part of that dynamic, we're not giving back, right? Well, we found a different way. We actually took a percentage ownership of the company, put it in a charitable trust. We're going to give it back by default. And I'll tell you what's interesting as part of that process, you can, when you start the beginning foundation of that, it's really easy. When the company's worth nothing, you multiply it by whatever percent you want to multiply by, it's still zero. And what I found when you talk about culture, we've had people and team members, I got to pinch myself. We don't deserve to have them, but they bought into the passion and the bigger mission of who we are and what we're doing. So I think those are the things that I start thinking about, of how you go through and manage the dynamic of the stress associated. There's a great graphic, as everyone was talking about the life of an entrepreneur. Everyone on the call's probably seen it. It's like this. It goes up and down and up and down. It's like, I'm awesome. Oh my God, we're going to go bankrupt. Wait, I'm too hard on myself. Oh my goodness. It's like this roller coaster we go on. And I think you have to be okay with that. I will tell you the one and the most important thing, if you're trying to figure out, do I want to go take this leap, that you have to do, you need to go do discovery. You need to go have 10 times the conversations you think you need to have with people to validate your market fit. I think that's the one piece that I consistently see missed, is we think of technology and, hey, there's this really great solution. It doesn't matter if somebody's not going to pay you money for it.
Yeah, and Watson said nothing happens till you sell something. And my team hears me say it all the time, that you don't have a business until somebody buys what you're selling, right? So obviously that's
actually,
a big part.
I will contest that. And I say, I don't think it actually gets easier until they actually want to use it by themselves. Because you can sell it, but if they don't want to renew it, then you have a problem.
Well, that's true. But you got to get them to buy it first, right?
Of course. But it's not as hard as you might think. Like, I think the hardest thing is to get them to keep paying for it.
Yeah, and I think also too, the challenge is getting other people to use it, to get others to do it, right? So
Yep.
We're in the financial industry in this accelerator, right? So, we work with bankers, right? As you guys know, every day, this is what you do in your work. There could probably not be a more risk-averse group of people in the world than bankers, right? That's what they're trained to do, is to mitigate risk. You guys are pretty risky, right? So you got to sell them every day about why they should take that risk. So I agree, Jose. You make a great point there. David, how about you? How did you figure out that Beauceron was going to be able to provide some income for you, and that it was going to be a viable business?
I think we before we left our day jobs, we had 5 early adopter customers. So we already had some people paying us because we were in a privileged position where we could build our little business and work the 5 to 9, sort of the little side hustle. So we knew we had people willing to pay stuff. We knew what the market was. I would say the mistake that I made is I underestimated competition. I thought we were so much smarter and so much faster and everything else. And it's, this is what you do when you're in your late 20s. You're still pretty cocky, and probably still pretty cocky today as an entrepreneur. But we got out there, we had a really good sense. We knew people would pay us. We knew there was value. We knew that cybersecurity was a giant dumpster fire across all sectors and only going to get worse. And, literally the year that we came out the door as a company, we had the WannaCry outbreak, right? Like, okay, wow. Has there ever been a sort of a wake up call? And so much worse since then, of all the things. So it's easy when there's a market trend, even if you make the wrong sort of initial assessments about who your competitors are and who you need to worry about. The one thing I would say that I've learned in the business side is put your own oxygen mask on first. And I mean that for entrepreneurs about mental health, because the points have been really well made about the roller coaster that is our lives. And there are high rates of anxiety and depression that happen to business leaders, and to entrepreneurs in particular. So you got to take care of yourself. You got to eat well. You've got to rest. You've got to be kind and human to yourself as part of that. And I know this is deviating a bit from our question about how we get into business. Getting in is one thing, because you get in there and you're like, I'm going to have $1 billion business. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to do this in 5 years, twice as much money, 3 times as much time as you think it's going to take you, and you'll get close to where you thought you were going to be. And along the way, what will keep you going is resiliency. Because, even in the last month, we've had like some of the biggest wins I can think of in terms of accounts and expanding. And then I've had hard days as a CEO where you're called to the floor and you've got to explain stuff. And then you have to realize you got to be resilient and you have to be willing to listen and learn. That's the most important thing I can say over the last 4 years as an entrepreneur that shaped me. I stopped trying to be a know-it-all. And now in my 40s, I'm a grow-it-all. I don't know it all. I never will. I have to listen. I have to improve. But if you love that, there's no better career than an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Miraj, let me get back to you for a minute and talk a little bit about what's been your toughest challenge in this path. I mean, guys, we can talk about this stuff for hours, but we've only got an hour. So I got 2 more questions I'm going to ask from each of you. And so let me start with that is what's been the toughest part of this journey for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think my points mimic David's and are aligned with his points that he just mentioned. I think the first thing is just know what you're getting into, right? You read all of these stories about these mega growth companies closing these massive rounds and have the world's sexiest investors leaning in. That is just the game of, walking and talking the entrepreneurship talk rather than walking the walk. So I think the biggest thing for us has been, and this moment came two years in or so, maybe 1.5, 2 years in, was just really being true to ourselves with, yeah, we started and we want to be $1 billion company, but hey, if we can get to 10, 20 million bucks in run rate, that's a pretty great result, right? So we should be okay with that result, right? But when you figure out and you're being true with yourself on what type of company you're building, it actually helps you rule out some paths that you don't want to take, right? One of the biggest things we had to do was realize, hey, is this a venture company or not? And again, it's like the startup playbook is always, hey, you go raise money and you go raise more money and you grow and you raise more money. Hey, there's this other path where you just raise a little bit of capital to get started and then you bootstrap your way to an incredible exit, right? And I think everyone on the other side of this call that's thinking about starting up or maybe in the early days really needs to have that moment, take a look in the mirror and figure out what you're trying to build and really where is this market going to take you? When we did that analysis and it came, just when we were still trying to do the drunken walk and figure it all out, which we still do every single day, but that's what really started, getting our perspective aligned with what milestones we needed to hit and what goals we needed to achieve. Because you can read up on TechCrunch and you can read up on all these great blogs about this is where your run rate should be at this moment in time, and you should be adding X amount of customers at X amount of growth rate. Like if you start comparing yourself to best in class, results and outcomes, it's probably not going to be a very good thing to do just because those are the 0.01% of players, right? So I think it really is, the toughest part has been, okay, understand that there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, we live in a very noisy environment where folks are continuously trying to, one-up each other on social media, LinkedIn. You see all of that all day long. Just have a little bit of perspective of what you're building and the fact that, hey, even the company that you're looking to build can become an incredibly successful company without getting the headline of funding raised or the big, big blog articles and things like that. So that's the approach we've taken is, hey, let's it's us against the world. Let's build something really cool. By the time we're really big and folks, figure out what we're up to, they can come and pat us on the back at that time. Let's just really lean in, keep our heads down, and continue to organically grow the way we've been doing. So very personal to me, but I think it's important for everyone listening in.
It's a great point, and it's about building a great business, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be a unicorn, right? It's not, the end game is not building Google or Apple, right? Or Tesla. There's also great 10, 15, 20, $3, $2 million businesses out there that people get wrapped around this concept of a lifestyle business. Well, $500,000 a year in income and a team of 25 and business that does $10 million a year. It's not a bad lifestyle, right? So that's, I respect it. I think that's a great perspective. I think you got to find your way there. Louden, what about you? And the same question. It's been the toughest.
I'd say for us, it's staying laser focused once you find that product market fit. Because we're a financial literacy company, we can touch a lot of different organizations, high schools, colleges, nonprofits, and we have a lot of different organizations reaching out to us. But we found our product market fit with the financial institutions, and resources are pretty limited in any startup. And I think every conversation can be valuable no matter who it's with. But at the end of the day, you need to set goals with your product market fit with the financial institutions and hit them no matter what. And I think it's been a really important learning experience for us, knowing that it's great to entertain these other conversations, but at the end of the day, we need to stay focused on what our goal is for the next month, for the next quarter, and make sure that we're hitting that and not getting distracted, because it's just so easy to get distracted with everything going on.
So as a leader, how do you keep everybody in their lane, Loud?
I think really it's about setting measurable goals and making sure that people are held accountable, that they're striving to hit those goals. And when you reach the end of the period, you look back and say, what could we have done differently to exceed that goal? And what can we do in the future to make sure we're setting realistic goals and hitting them and exceeding them in the future?
It's always a little bit easier to do that with your team. It's always a little harder to do it as the leader, right? We have, we have the privilege of being able to, go off the reservation a little bit, or out of the swim lane, if you will. But yeah, it's a challenge. That's great. Good stuff. Zach, how about you? What's been the toughest part of your journey?
Yeah, so I've got a story, and honestly, I don't share this very often, so I think it'll maybe give good perspective for the entrepreneurs or the people that are thinking through it in the future. So I mentioned the front end, high paying job, go to $0 salary, awesome, get the office set up. I'm going through a scenario. I had a buddy call me. The phone, he calls me and says, hey, your phone line's not working. Well, and I thought it was a technical issue I had on my side because I set up the cloud phone system. Well, fast forward, what ended up happening is the business card I gave him, and oh, by the way, my email address that I had and I gave him, I had the number at the end transposed. So he was trying to call me and couldn't get me. Now here I am 3 weeks into starting a business, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Who am I kidding? And that dynamic, I think we get as entrepreneurs, and we go through these processes, we miss that fact. Now, I'll tell you, that actually became a foundational fact for us because it allows for me to lead in with vulnerability with my team. We're not going to be perfect. It's all about, hey, how do I go take this and apply it? But I think as you look at the difficulties, and you've heard this a couple of different times, being in a startup it has this appearance of being sexy. And I had a buddy of mine, Wade Arnold, fantastic, really successful entrepreneur. And he told me when I was going to go start, he said, don't do it. If I had to go back, I'm not sure I would do it, Zach. And that's the type of conversation you need to have, because it is hard, and there are dynamics. And that's just a small story of that dip when I'm on that entrepreneur roller coaster that I talked about earlier. And hopefully that gives somebody on the phone a perspective of the challenges you have to be prepared for.
Good deal. Josearieal, how about you?
Two things that came to mind. One is what Louden said, just staying laser focused is so easy to get distracted with so much noise, where one thing you think this is the best idea, the next day you think is the best. And if you do that, you'll never get anywhere. Actually, there's a great joke from the Cheshire Cat, I think is the one from Alice in Wonderland, that says that if you don't know where you're going, you're already there. So you have to be like very laser focused, that you know where that is, don't matter what happens in the world. And then the other one is, let me see how can. So yeah, so the roller coaster, what Zack was saying, it's the downs, right? They're very, very, very consistent. There's a lot of them, the failures, and sometimes they're really big and they're demoralizing. And so it's being able to pick yourself up. And actually, another quote from Mike Tyson: "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." So you gotta be able to get up after you get punched in the face, and that's hard. Like, it sounds really sexy, it sounds really easy, but it's not. And sometimes it takes you a day, sometimes it takes you a month, sometimes you never recover from it, right? Like some people don't. That's why they go into depression and things like that. So I would say those are the two things for me.
Awesome. That quote's really been circulating lately. I just heard that again the other day. And
which one, the Mike Tyson one? Or the
yeah,
other?
I don't think of Mike Tyson as much of a philosopher, but I guess I need to learn more.
That's a great quote. I gotta say,
it's a great quote.
That guy, because he doesn't seem like a bright guy, but
well, if you've ever been punched in the face, it does sort of cast away any other ideas.
Exactly.
I have a few of those in the schoolyard as a kid, probably for all the right reasons that you guys know. David, how about you? What about your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge for me is passion is such a double-edged sword. As an entrepreneur, it is your greatest source of ideas and energy. But when someone tells me I don't like your baby, I think it's ugly, and I think you're wrong, or I don't agree with you about this, or I dispute this, or do you really know what you're talking about? And it's hard, man, because it is a force that you're harnessing. It's like electricity. It can be energizing and empowering, and it can shock you and burn you and hurt you. And so it's finding that balance and passion. It's something we're working through this week. It's like on the roller coaster, passion helps you get up that hill, and it's the reserve that you draw upon as you're going down, and you hit the bottom and away you go. And then I would say the counter to the greatest problem, the thing that keeps me most energized, is the people that I surround myself with. In particular, there are some women who've come into our company who are now becoming women in tech and leaders, my COO, my CFO, and so many others, and seeing that we're creating opportunities for others in the cybersecurity space and showing, hey, this is a space for everyone. And we can create good paying jobs and good careers in our particular part of Canada, and people feel like they're doing good and serving their communities, and we can make money, which is also, profit's not a bad thing. Profit's a good thing. It's how we power prosperity. So that's sort of my take on the greatest challenge. It's the punch in the face can be your own passion. And you've got to be humble, and you're going to be wrong. And someone's going to tell it to your face that you're wrong, and you got to be willing to listen.
Great advice. One of the things I want to just throw a little commercial in here, because it's come up in our conversation a lot today, and the importance of good mental health. And that conversation as it relates to entrepreneurs has been probably not as frequent as we have liked it to be. And my team, Becky in particular, helped me craft a op-ed for the local newspaper a few months back about that issue, and it was inspired by the loss of an entrepreneur who I know who took his own life, who was actually part of our programs. It's that constant challenge for balance, but I do want to make this audience aware that the Venture Center is committed to a new, what we call VC Health program. We're doing this monthly, And because we want to have this conversation with entrepreneurs, we want to prevent those things from happening. And it is a hard, it is a challenging, it is a lonely road at times. And you guys have certainly emphasized that today. So just as a little commercial in there for the Venture Center and that program, we look forward. We've had great participation so far and going to continue to evolve that, and want to know also from the entrepreneurs who participate and from our community here in Little Rock and around the world, what is it that you'd like to know about that particular topic if you have issues that you'd like us to address. Miraj, I want to land back on you for a little bit. Two things, and then I'm going to try to leave time for questions. We've got about 10 minutes left. I don't know that we'll get there because you guys have done a great job. But, all of you have also said that, you haven't done this on your own, right? I mean, you do to some degree, but there have been people who have been influential, who have been helpful, family, friends, mentors, advisors, those types of things. Is there a particular person for you, Miraj, that has helped you along this journey? And as you complete that, the closing question for you is, what advice would you give other entrepreneurs?
Got it. Yeah, there have been several folks. For the first thing you really get good at, I think, when you dive into the entrepreneurship world, is there's a lot of bullshitters out there, and a lot of folks that will act like they're extending their hand, but you only have 5% of those that actually will carry through with what they're promised or what they had originally mentioned. So we've had our fair share of the BS radar going up and getting stronger. But we really got lucky with one of our first angels, and he came from a real estate background. So very, again, modeling on a proven type model, very risk averse, very methodical in his approach to kind of how he ran his shop and his big real estate fund. And the one thing he taught us, and it wraps all of my comments into a bow, I think, is just don't drink the juice, right? There's no such thing as standard. There's no such thing as this is the way it needs to be. These are things that you left, the comforts that you left at the door when you decided, to jump in. And so it just goes back to the fact that there's a lot of noise in the world. There's a lot of, posturing, and there's an element of PR where, you have to at some point promote your business, and that's what folks do. But you just can't get caught up in it, right? All of the challenges with scaling and all these ideas that just raising money will buy you time to figure it out later. Those are the things that it was hard, but we stayed away from that type of mindset. And this gentleman and, one of our investors, he is one of our early investors, kind of taught us that, build a really good business under the hood, build a business that has strong unit economics. And then you're just, any money you raise, anything like that is truly pouring gasoline on your business from then on out, right? Solve it first, and then go drink the juice, and then go posture, and then go play the fun parts of being an entrepreneur, right? So that was the biggest influence to me. I know my recommendations for reading, I know that was one of the questions that, we were asked, is my favorite book is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz. Please read it. He kind of shares about, a unicorn, and him running a unicorn, and still every single day it's going to battle, it's going to war. When you're a $1 billion company, you don't lose, $500,000 clients, you lose $10 million clients overnight. And so the magnitude and the problems just, continue to go with you. And there's no sort of, hey, once I get to this milestone, it's easy breezy from here. And really, my last kind of piece of advice is just, again, be super true and honest to yourself, right? Everybody starts a business because they have the best idea ever. All of us had the best idea ever. That's how it always starts. You would never start a business if it wasn't a freaking good idea. But here you have 5 out of 5 people saying, hey, the business we're running today is significantly different, or has taken significantly longer, or has taken significantly more detours than the day we started it. So be prepared for that. You have the best idea in the world, no doubt, but it's not going to be the idea that you exit with. I can guarantee you that. So continue to be humble, continue to be coachable, and we're all rooting for you, and we all support each other. So good luck.
Good deal. Miraj, thank you. Great stuff. Great advice. Josearieal, how about you?
Sorry, what was the question?
What advice would you would you give others, and who has really been helpful to you along the way in your journey?
Oh, okay. Yes. So I think it's very important to surround yourself with people that you admire and people that you want to become. So for me, that was my mentor, Chris, who is my co-founder, and he had the kind of company that I wanted to have and the kind of lifestyle that I wanted to have. And so I've learned so much. Like I call him my angel, right? Not because he was an angel investor, but because, sorry, I call him the angel and the Oracle of Berkeley, not the Oracle of Omaha, because his building is on a second floor, like his office. And so every time something like shit hits the fan or something, and we need to contain something, I got to walk the stairs and go chat with Chris. What are we going to do? So anyway, I would say that's a big one. And I guess it applies also for like the team and employees. Right? Like surround yourself with people that actually, the best advice I've been giving on that is surround yourself with people that are better than you at everything. Otherwise, you're kind of like getting an A- team or B- team. So yeah.
Steve Jobs was right about that. And you look at my team and see it's pretty clear, is hire smart people to tell you what to do, right?
Yeah, but it's
not
hard.
to tell them what to do. I'm a big believer in that. And I am, as you guys know, blessed with an extraordinary team when it comes to that. Loudon, how about you?
I'd say to start off, my father was a really big influence for me. He's an entrepreneur himself, and I grew up seeing the meaning that he found in his work. So it inspired me to be part of something that I really believed in. But now at the company, I think our team is a huge source of just inspiration and influence. And I think it's because we're so honest with each other. Every person on the team knows that we can't afford to go with ideas that don't make sense. So if someone says something, it doesn't make sense, someone else has to say, that's a terrible idea. Let's think about something else. And I think creating that culture at our company is really what has allowed us to make smart decisions and put ourselves in a position where we can continue to grow. And so really that's the advice I would give is just don't be afraid of rejection and calling other people out on their ideas and being willing to be called out yourself, because that's ultimately how you're going to come up with the best idea and put your best foot forward as a company.
You bet. Great stuff. Zach?
So there's a couple things there. I think the first one I would say is increase your network. So one of the things I did before I started the business is I was heavily involved in an association that had leaders that had been successful in banking technology, had exits, Association for Financial Technology. That has been so instrumental for me, and being able to pick up the phone and talk to people that have been there and give you perspective. So I think that's the first thing, is just understand that dynamic of there. One of the things that I had as I was prepping, and just kind of, recommendation or advice, I talked about discovery. There's a great book. It's called The Mom Test. If you Google the Mom Test on YouTube, it really gives a good perspective of how to go do discovery and remove your bias as an entrepreneur. And I would highly recommend that. There's also another great book, and he's got some videos that are out there on chasing failure. And there's a guy that went and actually, I can't remember his name because, of course, my two brain cells are fighting. But essentially, he went out and tried to apply for every NBA team, and he didn't get it. And the dynamic he talks about is chasing failure. And the thing I'll leave you with is, if you don't put yourself in a place to be able to fail, you never know what you can accomplish.
Well, and we always think about Edison, right? So he never failed, right? He just found 10,000 ways not to do it, and ultimately ended up with a light bulb. So I think of him often, actually. But anyway, David, I'm going to let you kind of wrap it up for us. We just got a couple minutes left. I don't think we're going to have any time for questions today. I got a few other announcements to make, but I'm happy to try to take one or two questions if people want to hang out. Certainly, they can put those up on the chat. But why don't you go ahead and David, talk to us a little bit about what advice would you give, and who's helped you along the way?
I want to echo the comment made about my team. I do subscribe to the hiring people who are smarter than me. I had an idea, but it took a team to build it into a company. And that's actually the other meaning of the word company, a group of people. And so, you know, I draw an incredible amount of strength. And it's funny, you know, Ben and I are kind of like the Waldorf and Statler from the Muppet Show, where, you know, when we were running the security of the university, we were constantly had our own little commentary. And when I'm up, he was down. When he was down, I was up, and we balance each other out. So your team plays a huge role in that. In terms of books, I actually want to make a pitch for a cybersecurity book, and it's Sandworm by Andy Greenberg. And Andy does a great job of telling the story of the Russian hacking team that has wreaked havoc throughout our world. And if you really want to understand about just where we are globally and things, and how this whole world is getting shaped by people you never imagined, it's a great book. You know, not a business book per se, but cyber is everywhere in business. So good to know who's out there and what their motivations are.
Good. Hey, well, we're out of time, and I want to thank the five of you for being vulnerable and open and sharing the challenges of your journey with us today. Your advice is well-founded and certainly experiential. Your perspective is extraordinary. I know you inspire all of us, and I speak for myself in particular. It's why we love to do this work every day, because you guys just make us think about the world differently and what we're capable of, and get a chance to do the good work of helping make the world a better place. We're grateful to each of you. I want to really say thanks. Lastly, let me just wrap up with, again, I just want to remind everybody about the VC Health that's coming up. If you are not getting our newsletter and aren't subscribed to our events, go to venturecenter.co and get yourself signed up, please. My team works day and night to bring the best content that we can to this community, both within inside of Arkansas and also around the world. And we're very, very fortunate to have your participation. Want to thank the ICBA, our greatest partner, Simmons Bank, Wright Lindsay Jennings, Frost Accounting, and of course the Little Rock Chamber. Thank my team. You guys have a great day. Go wash your hands and be careful. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.